Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 176, titled, and I messed this one up. I got my calendar wrong. It's titled Prospect Tourney coming up next week. It's actually the week after, isn't it? Whoops.
Yeah, there's nothing happening next week.
Yeah. My bad. I got my
This
calendars
Sam.
wrong.
You didn't ask me for a title tonight. You didn't ask me. You went rogue.
Yeah. Yeah, this is supposed to be a pre-recording for next week, I guess. I don't know.
Can the title be Sam's a Jerk? I was going to say something else, but it was a curse, and I realized it halfway through.
I could change the title slide on the video feed if I wanted to.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
Yeah.
Do you want to lie to our customer base? Do you want to be a liar, Sam? I don't want to be a liar.
All right. In 2 weeks, I'm going to change the title. In 2 weeks.
This is a terrible title.
I didn't know what to think. It's August 31st, 2022. Right before Labor Day weekend.
Just name the podcast Crickets. It's like the cool thing to do.
Oops, wrong. Nope, not. Oh, there we go. We're just getting warmed up here.
Oh man, Sam, you are. It's like warming up ice over there. So
it's been terrible 2 weeks.
It has. It's been crazy, and because of the craziness, there's a lot of stuff we didn't really get to. So
yeah,
we're gonna get to that tonight. Sam, what are your thoughts on blue in Devils jerseys?
Well, are you tying it into the Kansas City Scouts and Colorado Rockies blue?
I'm not doing anything. I'd be making a lot more money if I was doing those things. But sounds like that's what Adidas is doing, is tying into the history of the Kansas City Scouts, which, by the way, you tie it into the Kansas City Scouts, right? Do you know how long the Devils were in Kansas City?
As long as, I don't know, when they did the jersey and they tried to pay homage to teams that were defunct in a year.
Yeah, I mean, so the team that the jersey was paying tribute to was only there for 1 year. The Kansas City Scouts were there for 2, 1974 to 1976, and all the way over to Colorado. It was in Colorado from 96 to 82. These are very, in terms of, the Devils have been around themselves for 40 years. And you're paying homage to 2 years. I don't hate the thought of blue in the jersey if it makes sense. I mean, I don't know.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. Everybody is trying to be a little edgy, a little different, unique, but don't overthink it. Just don't overthink it. Just like the third jersey, which was done by the New Jersey Devils, has nothing to do with Adidas, really. That design.
I'm sure they worked with Adidas. I'm sure. I know they said that Mark Camperdor designed the jersey, but I'm sure Adidas had a large hand in it.
Yeah, they did. But honestly, the execution, again, overthinking it, kind of like overplaying the puck or over skating the puck. Don't overdo it. All you had to do was slap a logo on that jersey. It would have been fine, in my opinion. This one, using the color blue, I don't know. So what? The Rangers are going to go with black, red, and white? I don't get it.
I don't know. Sam, do you know what this reminds me of? A classic Simpsons episode when they let Homer design a car. And they're like, oh, this is great. It all sounds great when it's sitting right in front of you and everybody's like, oh, yeah, this is wonderful, yada, yada, yada. And then you're like, wait a minute. We should let experts create things that they're experts in. Why are we letting Martin Brodeur create a jersey? Why are we paying homage to a team that was two years old? And, if you want to pay homage, like, play with the logos maybe. Because the logo's pretty dope, not going to lie. And I know it's, I know a lot of, Native American stuff comes with some cultural appropriation, but it seems like Kansas City and this scout is kind of, it doesn't have to do with that. So, you can kind of get away with that. I mean, not to get away with it. It does. That's not what that is. So that's so you don't have to worry about falling into those kinds of traps. And, I know that the Avalanche wore the Rockies jersey not too long ago, right? Because the Rockies jersey is dope.
Yeah, I think so. I like him.
So, I mean, but somebody did a mock-up of the old Scouts jersey in red and black, and I thought that looked really good. Maybe something like that. Or, here's the thing is that I'll allow anything for one night. If you're wearing them once, that's fine. The Devils wore the jersey so often last year that they didn't wear this jersey that often. Towards the end of the season, I felt like we never saw this jersey, and this jersey is one of the best jerseys in sports. The red, the black, the piping. I know people miss the stripe on the bottom of the jersey, but I really like this jersey. I think this jersey is sleek. This jersey is sick. The logo is phenomenal. And, maybe we just don't get alternates. The reverse retro did really well. People really liked it. I thought it was a little weird, but it sold really well. You know what I mean? No, like, you can't even get a Jack Hughes reverse retro for less than, a 50%
They
markup.
did that one now. Right. They did that one right because they didn't overthink it. They did it right.
Arguably, they kind of did. They made a green jersey. They flipped the colors. Like, this is the normal retro with the green in the piping, or not in the piping, in the secondary colors. But they just flipped the jersey around. Yeah, I get you're wearing. You got the white one, right? Yeah, yep. It's like
years ago.
They just overdo it. You know what I mean? They just go a little too far all the time. And again, the reverse retro, people loved it. I wasn't that big on it.
That was the brand back in Peterson's.
Oh, really?
This is back in the 80s. Yep. Back in the 80s. Peterson's New Jersey Devils jersey. It's old school. It's got the mesh, all that. It's a blank jersey.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, it's so comfortable.
So, but again, you're putting blue in a jersey and a Devils jersey. It just feels weird. And I want to keep an open mind, Sam, because we only have very little to go off of. We have a couple leaks and a couple and the leaks aren't even of the jersey. The leaks are of either concepts of the jersey or this one logo. And it looked green to me at first. I'm going to be honest. I guess it was just kind of how the pixels kind of came in on my phone. But, it just doesn't, it seems odd that that's the direction they're going in. It just seems like they didn't have one for the Devils. They're like, well, where can we go with this? Just make a different logo. We're going to, just make a different variation of, make it NJ Devil's head. That would be cool. Or just do something small. I'm sure a lot of people would like a black jersey with the Devils logo on it. A lot of people would enjoy that.
Oh, yeah. That old starter jersey from the 90s.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I had my
very nicely
I had the
done
starter jacket. back in the day, and the black with
Remember
his logo on it just looked so sleek.
I think Apex was making. I thought Apex were making jackets back in the day.
I'm
And
sure
then there
are.
was Toho was. Then there was another period. Oh, what's the other one? Pro Player. I think they were making jerseys.
I remember Pro Player. That was back in the day. That was still my time. But Starter was like the big one. Like if you had a Starter jacket, you were a dope kid. And it was cool because everybody not everybody picked their favorite team. You saw a lot of Chicago Bulls ones, but there was people would pick like Flyers ones when they weren't Flyers fans because they like the colors, or they'd pick Pistons ones, or it was an interesting thing. But anyway, we're getting off track. One of the big topics this week, Sam, is the NHL is coming out with the rankings again, and everybody's just kind of up in arms about it. But everybody's coming out with rankings, and we saw. I think it was yesterday, or the day before. Corey Pronman came out with his top players under 23, and no surprise, really. Like people were ecstatic about it and great, but Jack Hughes was at the top of the list. He was number 2 last year. I think it was he 2 or was he 1A? It was him and Svechnikov. I think Svechnikov was 1 and Hughes is 2. Well, now Hughes is number 1, and that's not really a surprise. Hughes looked like a legit super duper star last year. And I know Hughes has come up as a topic of conversation a lot because Tage Thompson just signed a ridiculous 7-year deal, paying him north of $7 million a year, and a lot of people are comparing it to paying for future production, like they did with the Devils did with Hughes. So Hughes' contract has come up a lot, but again, you're paying Hughes that $8 million starting this year, and it looks like it's going to be a steal of a contract, especially if the cap starts going up. That's going to be a steal of a contract. But it's interesting. It's interesting. It's interesting to see him get a lot of recognition. I think he was named. Oh, he was just named one of the best athletes in New York, just overall. I think he was named 15th on JJ's list from The Ringer. And that's talking about guys like Garrett Cole and Aaron Judge and Jacob deGrom and Pete Alonso and all the players in the Rangers, Igor Shesterkin, Kevin Durant, RJ Barrett. You're talking about all the teams in New York, and Jack Hughes makes the top 15 list. It's especially when he plays for New Jersey. Like you got to admit he's not. I don't think an Islander made the list. So you're looking at it that a player from the Devils made the list, and an Islander didn't make the list. I know a couple Islanders.
I'll tell you what. Not only is Jack Hughes a superstar in the making, because I don't think we've seen his potential yet, but he is so marketable. The way what he did at the All-Star game, and the mini Jack, the mini Hughes, and doing that, I mean, it was awesome. And on top of everything else, the kid's a good kid. He doesn't get in trouble. He works hard. Yeah. When they asked him to put on some weight, get some beef, he did. Then he, lost some of it, not to his own fault.
Yeah, I mean, he got COVID.
Yeah,
it happens.
Maybe twice, and but he came out very strong. And I think, we haven't seen what Jack Hughes can do for the Devils. But so far, I'm liking what I'm seeing, just like everyone else. But I think the one part of his game, Jack Hughes, that we're going to see, I think he's going to be a better defensive player as well, where he's just not going to be just hanging around in the defensive zone. I think he's going to be doing a lot of the little things because he's so skilled, so fast, and he wants the puck.
Seeing that.
Yeah, I know, but
he led the league in takeaways in the COVID shortened season. Yeah. He led the league in takeaways. He's phenomenal when it comes to instincts in the defensive zone. He doesn't always make the right play. So I guess that's counteracting what I'm saying, but I'm trying not to see. Or maybe he's not in the right position all the time. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Like sometimes he's trying to overcome being out of position, but
Yeah.
when he's in the right position, you can't pass by him. He's going to take it the other way. That's why he has so many breakaways, because he takes the puck in the middle of a passing lane and just goes the other way. And these passes are going pretty fast. And he puts it on a stick, stops it on a dime, and moves it up to. So, I do agree. He's going to get better at. Do you know why I think he's going to get a lot better at that? The Devils have made incredible upgrades at the coaching. And we talked about this last week with Bryce Salvador. The guy they got from Vegas Golden Knights is going to do wonders for that defense. Andrew Brunette is going to do wonders for the offensive firepower, for the power play. A lot of the things that were major issues for the Devils last year are not issues this year. Here's the thing, Sam. There's one thing that's going to make or break this season. The same thing that made or break last season, and it's the same thing that made or break the season before. And honestly, the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that. Goal tending. Since Corey Schneider lost his smile and couldn't put the same amount of weight on his hip, this team has been made or broken by goaltending. There have been some defensive lapses since then. There have been some special teams lapses since then, but it's always goaltending. They signed Corey Crawford because they needed to solidify the goaltending. He retired. The team wasn't very good. They needed to do it again, so they signed Jonathan Bernier, and they brought back Scott Wedgwood. One got hurt and got lost for the season. The other was stupidly put on waivers, and now he's an NHL. He's got an NHL contract with, I think, the Dallas Stars. Goaltending is, again, going to tell you what's going to happen this season. And this season's interesting because I have to see when Jonathan Bernier is coming back. If he comes back in December and Vitek Vanacek and Mackenzie Blackwood are running on all the cylinders, what do you do? Do you know what I would do, Sam?
What?
I would have 3 goaltenders in the NHL roster. Then your extras every night is 1 forward, 1 defenseman, 1 goalie. Every night. Every single night. And then you never have to worry about one getting claimed on waivers and then one getting hurt, and you got Nico Dawes back in the NHL again. And I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world because I think Nico Dawes is going to learn from last year, but he needs to just cook in the AHL. Keep all 3. We've seen it. Teams will claim goalies. Teams will always claim goalies. They don't make it through waivers at any point in the season. The Arizona
How does the
Coyotes
salary
claim a
cap
goalie at all
work on
times.
that? Is there going to be room when he comes back, or is he already?
Yeah,
Or is he already embedded in that salary cap?
he's already counted in the salary cap. The Devils, with him counting against the salary cap, the way cap friendly works is they don't they don't count LTIR until the season starts. So the Devils are currently within $80,000 of the salary cap, something ridiculously small, but that's with Jonathan Bernier under contract, and it'll be prorated because he's going to go in LTIR. So they're going to get $1 million back or $1.5 million or something like that. So they'll be fine as long as it all depends. It all depends on who goes in LTIR. It all depends on how many people they have to call for up from the AHL. It all depends on who ends up making the roster. It all depends on who they're going to make moves on. Are they going to sign a PTO? Are they going to bring in a veteran? Or there's a million little things that can happen to change their status. But as of right now, the Devils are right at the salary cap with Bernier there. So technically, since they're going to save $1 million with him probably missing half the season, maybe a little bit more, they could sign a minimum veteran. There's a lot of interesting players out there. Subban is still out there. I wouldn't sign him at this point because you're just stacked on the right side. But if you sign him for $1 million, he's going to do every charity event. He's going to represent your franchise phenomenally. He's going to be the face of all those events. I don't know how many people here watch wrestling at all, but like the WWE still employs Titus O'Neil because he does every charity event. He's everywhere, and and people love him for it. He's not a WWE champion, but he's always going to have a job because of how much he does with the community. And I feel like I'm surprised that everything that Subban has done does not afford him a similar opportunity.
Yeah, I think that may happen down the road unless he signs somewhere else. And
maybe somebody, maybe he waits, and maybe John Marino gets hurt in training camp or something like that. They ring up PK. Maybe, who knows? Anything can happen. We saw it last year. Everything happened last year. So anything can happen this year. But like Evan Rodriguez is still out there. Sonny Milano is still out there. There's a lot of interesting names, and Milano is a guy who I wish we had the room because he would really help this team. He's kind of a guy you could plug and play anywhere in that lineup. Anywhere from first line to healthy scratch. Like you could put him anywhere and he'll fit in for a night or two. So but we don't have the room. This is the team. You missed out on Johnny Gaudreau, which, by the way, feels like 17 years ago. Like, how long ago does it feel like we were talking about the Johnny Gaudreau stuff?
Yeah, I'm over him now. And Kachuk.
I'm interested to see what Columbus does, because Columbus has the similar issues where their goaltending situation is not ideal. And I'd say ours is better than theirs because they're just running back what they had last year, which did not work. At least we have Vanacek, who kind of needed a change of scenery. See if that helps. But look at it. Look at Vegas. Vegas trades for Aiden Hill this week, when they said they're going to go with Thompson and I forget the other guy's name after Leonard gets hurt. And now they're going with Hill. They literally lied to all of our faces. And now they're going with Hill. And Hill's a fine goalie. But, look at what people are doing with their goaltender situation this year. It's just weird. It's just it was such a weird market. I go back to this all the time, but Toronto is this is a make or break year. Kyle Dubas is going to get fired if he doesn't get out of the first round of the playoffs. Sheldon Keefe is going to get fired if they don't get out of the first round of the playoffs. They're going to clean house in Toronto if they don't get out of the first round. And they put all of their chips on Matt frickin' Murray. Not only did they put all their chips on it, but they gave away an asset and they paid a majority of the salary. On top of that, the other guy they're relying on is the guy from Washington, the former first round pick. They signed him off the street after he didn't get qualified. Edmonton went all in on Jack Campbell and is now paying him for 5 years. I'm trying to think. It was just a very strange season when it came to off season when it came to goaltending.
But you know what?
And the Devils.
But you know what? The Devils didn't offer such a big deal where you live and die by that signing. It wasn't really a goalie's market. They get Vanacek for flipping picks and then signing him to a reasonable deal. Now you put competition between Mac Black and VTech. I think we're going to be sitting in December, the Devils, with a happy problem. Who do you go with? A happy tandem. That's what I think is going to happen. Because something's got to give. I mean, if Mac Black, is still struggling, well, then that's why you have Vanacek, or vice versa. But I think Vanacek is going to come out on top. But I think Mackenzie Blackwood is going to give him a run for his money. And but I think what the real changes are is the locker room, the culture. Aside from the coaches, I think you've got some quality players that's going to lift up the team when they're down, especially if they're slumping. Previous years, the last 3 or 4 years, at the Devils, they look good, and then the slide that they can't stop. I think we got the guys now that can bring the locker room together. I think we got guys that will stick up for their teammates, Brendan Smith particularly, Palat, I think Haula as well. Haula's a pretty good player. He's got some decent speed. All of them have, some pretty nice talents to go along with their skill. And you know what? The bottom line here is, as a fan, you and I have been looking at this for a while now, Nick, they're all the way to the cap ceiling, and that's a start right there. Let's see what they do. And these contracts, there's contracts coming off the books next season, and in a couple of years, the cap will reset itself, have a cap correction after what's happened the last couple of years. And I think all things are good for the New Jersey Devils, especially when they've got that pipeline filled with defensemen.
Yeah, defensemen. Every position. They're pretty stacked at every position, to be honest. I don't know where the goalies rank per se, but at forward you got Holtz, you got Tice Thompson, you have Arseny Gritsik, Arseny Gritsik was just named the best player under 23 years old in the KHL. So the Devils have the best player under 23 years old in the NHL and the best player under 23 years old in the KHL. That's a big deal, Sam. And this isn't even considering Nolan Foote, this is also not considering Dawson Mercer, who's on the team.
I think Mercer's going to be, seeing him at the VMAs, I thought that was kind of cool. But, I think Mercer, I think some of these guys, are they going to have a sophomore slump? I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think he's going to progress.
Yeah, I think the reason why he won't is because, as the kids say, Sam, he got that dog in him. He's not going to rest on his laurels. He's not going to get frustrated when something doesn't go his way. He's always got that dog in him. Even last year, he played 82 games last season, and he was in a horrific slump for part of it. That last month of the season, before the last week when he kind of got a scoring touch back again, he just couldn't get the puck in the net, couldn't get assists, he couldn't get points at all. But he always had that dog in him. He was always fighting for everything. He was moving positions between center and wing. And that's another thing you got to ask with him. There's not really a spot for him at center. So, unless somebody gets injured, he's a perfect injury replacement. He's everything we were hoping Pavel Zacha would be, but he's actually good.
I'm glad Pavel Zacha is off this team. And there's nothing against him. I think his time is done. He's going to find success in Boston, no doubt. I do. But to get Eric Haula back in return, and now you don't have to worry about Pavel Zacha and big contracts potentially. I think Haula will fill a role. We needed Devils needed a third line center. They've got one right now. He's versatile. He can play the wing. He's got some speed, and I think again we talked about that third line, and that was I think that move addressed a concern that I've had for a while, that okay, you can roll these lines, but that third line had so many holes in it, so inconsistent, that I'm hoping that it'll be a lot better this upcoming season.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Fabian Zetterlund, could he be on this roster? with
He
a little
should
bit of
be.
edge.
He should be, unless he regresses in the preseason.
Yeah.
You know, and do you know who should be? And I think somebody already said this, but Tice Thompson should be on this roster. Tice
He
Thompson
should
is
be.
somebody who definitely, yeah. I mean,
Definitely
they
should
thought
be.
he was going to be on the roster out of training or out of college. They expected him to be an NHL player out of college. He got hurt last year, which was supposed to be a short-lived year in AHL. You know, it's a couple stops and starts for Thompson, but they still have high hopes for this guy. I think here's the thing, Sam. I think if you asked Lindy Ruff and Tom Fitzgerald off the record, I think they'd say, I think Tice Thompson makes this team over Fabian Zetterlund. And that's what they would say. I think they believe in this kid. And he's got that dog in him, too. He's got a lot of fight, a lot of grind. He's not as big. He doesn't hit as much as Zetterlund, but he still grinds. You know what I mean? Like, he's still, you know, he'll grind you down. He'll make you just feel, you know what I mean? Like, he'll get the puck. He'll run into people. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
How that'll work on the NHL level compared to college, you know, he already got hurt. That changes the mindset of players, especially when it happens early in your NHL career. And he would have gotten a lot of NHL experience last year if he didn't get hurt. Instead, he sat on the sidelines, injured. And he got a decent amount of AHL games, and I'd have to look at his numbers. I forget them off the top of my head, but I think they were pretty good on a per game basis. Actually, let me look it up. Talk for a second.
Well, as we're talking about Devils hockey, I have a confession. I'm watching the Mets game under the camera lens.
We're on a podcast, Sam.
I understand, but Timmy Trumpets is going to happen tonight. I'm hoping.
I don't know what that is.
Oh my goodness! Only Mets fans. Reading some of the comments, Kyle says Zetterlund, Hulla, and Tatar line. Tatar's got to step it up. You know, he had a bad start, had some good moments, but needs to be more consistent. Andreas Janssen, or should I say Andre Johnson, or is it Andreas Johnson?
I think it's Andreas Johnson. I don't know, Sam.
Yes,
I'm going to go with Johnson because I got yelled at when I said Johnson once.
Yeah.
I don't want to get yelled at again.
And Simon Nemitz. Don't forget about him. That's a player to watch.
I think he's
training camp.
AHL all day, but maybe just because of his handedness. I think he might be good enough to make the NHL, but I think just the roster setup. I think he's Damon Severson replacement next year.
I'm looking forward to seeing Miles Wood, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
How he's going to come off that injury. You know, Devils didn't seem worried to give him a 1-year deal. And
a pretty good 1-year deal.
Yeah, and I think it was good for both parties. I loved how Tom Fitzgerald navigated through this jungle of an offseason, you know, with the hopes of Gaudreau, then getting blown off by Gaudreau, and the Tkachuk. Well, the Devils never had a chance because Florida just up the ante to get Tkachuk. I think Calgary's looking pretty good right now. Who would ever thought after they lost their 2 marquee players? And but they still had a pretty
skeptical, but we'll see.
Well,
it all depends on what the Pacific does. You know, Seattle has to take a jump, or LA has to take a jump, or somebody has to take. You know, maybe Vegas takes a jump. Vegas probably is a good bet to take a jump, but you know, I don't know. I'm not in love with Calgary. I feel like the Darryl Sutter thing usually is a 2-year thing that you know last 2 years and or 3 years or 4 years kind of falls off. But we'll see. What were they? Top seed. I know they were the top seed in the Pacific. Were they the number 1 seed in the West? Remind me.
I don't know. Sorry.
Okay. Either way. By the way, Tice Thompson had 15 points in 16 games in the AHL last year. So very good, very good points per game. 6 goals, 9 assists. So he looked good. He looked the part. He was just injured most of the year. I do
Tyson's
want to talk about
nice.
Tatar real quick. I want to talk about
Talk about
Tatar real quick. What I think he's gonna have a big season. I really do. I think he's gonna have a big season. I think he's gonna have 55 to 60 points.
I tell you what. Last season, I thought he was a little bit lost, but when he found his way, when he had played with confidence, he was a nice player for that stretch. There was a stretch where he was a scoring machine, but is he streaky? He's very streaky.
Yeah, he is. He's always been streaky. I think there's going to be a good stretch where you have a Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, Thomas Tatar line. I think you're going to have that for a while. I think your top line, I think is going to end up being Mercer, Hughes, and Sharangovich. I'm a little concerned about Holtz. He added some weight. He's trying different things. I don't like that he's trying different things when the things that he's really good at haven't worked yet.
But if you read that Novozinski article, I think what I read was that it was the coaches that told him in the exit meeting, you better beef up. And then the first thing he said was, but you know how that goes, though. Sometimes you beef up. Guess what happens?
Slow down.
Your agility slows down. Everything slows down because you're carrying a little bit of bulk that you're not used to. Joe Sakic years ago, because I followed his training regimen years ago, that he lifted a lot of weights, but guess what happened? A lot slower, couldn't keep up with the play, and he realized that he was getting hurt a lot. So he went back to his old regimen where it was a lot of flexibility, lots of cardio, and all that. And Joe Sakic is obviously in the Hockey Hall of Fame and doing pretty well as a GM at the moment.
Yeah.
But
he's looking back at Joe Sakic. He honestly is one of the best of all time.
Yeah, and he played in an era where you had to really deal with the physical pain of being in the league. I mean, that was a tough era. Clutch and grab, the red line in play. That was a different era that Joe Sakic played, and he still dominated.
And here's something that's weird about hockey: is that there are spatterings of some of the greats of all time throughout the eras. But when you look at that mid-90s sweet spot, like 94 to 98, you just had some of the best of all time all over the place. You had Wayne Gretzky, the best of all time. You had Marc Messier, who's one of the best leaders of all time. You had Martin Brodeur, the best goalie of all time. The Dominic Hasek, who had the best run for a goalie of all time. Patrick Roy was right in the conversation as well. You had Mario Lemieux, who is second best player of all time. You had Jaromir Jagr, who might be the best overall offensive player of all time. You had Joe Sakic, one of the most underrated players of all time. You had Ray Bourque, who was another one of the most underrated defensemen of all time. You had Nicholas Lindstrom, who is the best defenseman of all time. Actually, what year did he come into the league?
Lidstrom?
Wasn't it like 94?
Yeah, something like that. Mid-90s, early 90s, I think he was drafted. Maybe 93.
Right, so, best defenseman of all time. The list goes on and on and on of these great players. And that's not even including the flash in the pans like the Eric Lindros, the Paul Kariya. Teemu Selanne is somebody who was at times one of the best. Pavel Bure had stretches of being just so freaking phenomenal. Like
Alexander McGillney, the Russians that came over.
Yeah, and there was this influx of players from this land that never really existed before because the Soviet Union fell. And so the mid-90s hockey was just some of the best. And, there was the clutch and grab, and there was a lot of this stuff that kind of slowed down the game. And there was the trap, but
the shenanigans. Remember when the
here's
goons,
the thing about the trap.
the enforcers staged fighting?
While the trap is, yes, on its surface, a system to deter offense from the other side, it is not a system to take offense away from the game. It is a system that also it provides you one way and the other, because you can also get really good scoring chances the other way because you always get the puck in the neutral zone.
Mm-hmm.
You could, instead of starting from your own zone, you're starting from the neutral zone. So that shouldn't have deterred offense from the Devils. The Devils were still scoring, and you saw that even in '95 they were scoring. It just happened to be that those games happened to be low scoring because the ones we remember are the playoff games. The playoff games are usually lower scoring. There's not a ton of high scoring playoff games. And we're coming out of an era in the 80s where even the playoff games were 8-6. So, you get it, but it's not what it was on the surface. And the trap only lasted till 97 with the Devils, and then they went with different offensive systems and ones that were more apt to the style of play they had. They had one of the best offensive defensemen of all time in Scott Niedermayer. Again, and there's another one, Scott Niedermayer, one of the best offensive defensemen of all time. He actually probably would be celebrated more if he played for a different team. He played for the Devils and the Ducks, just two teams that just didn't get a lot of publicity. And he was playing next to Scott Stevens and Martin Brodeur here. So he wasn't the star. If he plays in Dallas, or Calgary or a different market, even if it's not a huge market, it's just a different market, he's probably considered one of the best of all time. He's still, hockey people consider him one of the best of all time, but in terms of the overall fair weather fan, I bet you a lot of these young fans who aren't Devils fans don't know who Scott Niedermayer is. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean, there's a different generation out there, and I'm wondering what the generation's going to be like that only knows that the Devils losing last 10 years. It's going to be interesting because there's a generation that only knew winning for. I remember little Sean, the little kid in the parking lot back in the Meadowlands days. We used to tailgate. He was only 4 years old, and he was born, I think, a month after the Rangers had won the Stanley Cup. So all he knew from age 0 to I don't know, age 15 or something like that the Devils were just dominant. The Devils were always winners. The Rangers always had problems. And now you've got a generation right now that it's okay, Dad, we like the Devils, but I'm going to start looking at other teams. Because the Devils were and still in that forever rebuild. But will Jack Hughes get them out of that? I sure hope so. Because I remember back in the day going to the Meadowlands, it was probably 60% Ranger fans, 40% Devils fans. It was always, and then on top of that, here's the other kicker too. This is what I heard, but we always got crap from the Meadowlands, the ushers, the security. It was like night and day how they treated the Ranger fans versus the Devils fans at the old Meadowlands. And then I found out that they were all unions, and the unions were from New York. The people that they hired. So it was kind of, that's what I heard. So it was always you get in an argument with the Ranger fan. The Ranger fan will scream all the profanity. You say one thing, it's boom, you're gone. Or I think when John Madden, I think it was John Madden that had a hat trick and everybody was throwing stuff on their hats on the ice. Like there were Devils fans that were taken away from the game and banned from Continental because the actual ushers did not even know that that's hockey tradition.
Oh, really?
Anyway, yeah, I remember those days. I go way back. By the way, it's going to be my birthday this Sunday, so I definitely go way back. I remember those days of the old Meadowlands. I mean, I could do a whole podcast of old Meadowlands stories, the stuff we used to do.
You should. It's not like you don't have a podcast platform.
Yeah, or you know what? I should, maybe that's what I should do. A series on pucksandpitchforks.com. Sam's old Meadowlands days. You know,
Listen,
how we used to sneak booze into the arena.
Well, maybe not that exact story, but yeah, you know.
Or how to sneak in. Did you know how to sneak in back in the day in the smoking sections? Brendan
I know
Byrne
the
and
story.
Continental?
I never did it.
Yeah.
We were too poor to even get to the arena, but yeah.
Yeah.
I know of the story, yeah.
Yeah. You know.
People like you, while you need like wristbands and stuff. Yeah.
I actually never really got involved in that. Maybe once I did, but it was a throwaway game. I think it was a game where I lost my ticket or something like that and needed a way in. Like I didn't have the physical ticket, you know.
Yeah.
But and then
you got to fill the seats some way.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, well, I should tell that story off air, but
yeah. Sam, we went 50 minutes with no schedule, no rundown, nothing. We just went.
It's just like a Woo report.
It's fun. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, did we miss anything? Was there anything left to talk about?
No, you know, basically just one last thing because I've got a couple DMs recently. Oh, the Devils, not much going on. Where's my podcast? You know, blah, 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 blah. How come I haven't seen it lately? I've said this on the other podcasts and all that. We have some tech issues at the moment. We're getting to it. So I'm taking the time in the off season to reconfigure the studios. As you can see, if you look at my setup, it's a little different. Even Nick's setup is different. He's in transition right now. So we're working on it. Also working on our tour schedule because I've been asked about that as well. We're going to come out with a tour schedule where we're going to be.
Figuring it out.
Mostly, yeah. But we're not slacking or anything. And if you need some Devils, you need your Devils fix, go to pucksandpitchforks.com.
And that's the other thing. I slacked off this month. I didn't slack off. I moved twice. So it just, you know, this is probably the lowest output Pucks and Pitchforks has had in 3 years. And I appreciate people still coming by, Sam, because people have still read the articles. They've read some of our new guys, Sam. We have another Sam. There's two Sams.
I know.
You better get on there and let people know who Sam Wu is. But Jonathan Bailey has been doing really well. He's been doing really good work.
Yeah.
So go and check their stuff out. Vinny Parisi put out 2 articles in one day because he's Vinny Parisi and that's what he do. You know, and hopefully all the other favorites. Trey Matthews put something out recently. Hope all your other favorites, you know, they get on their horse soon. You know, and I think Dan Rice said that a pace is coming out soon. So it's September. Everybody's going to get excited. And Sam, I have something that's coming out soon. I can't give an exact date because I've done that before and I didn't finish it, but it's finally started. 50 greatest players. I don't know. How does this look on? I don't know, whatever. 50 greatest players of all time. It's coming early September.
Is it NHL or is it just Devils?
Just the Devils.
Oh,
50
okay.
greatest Devils of all time. There's a couple people who we have on the podcast who are not going to be happy with me.
Really?
There's a couple people who we have on the podcast that are not going to be thrilled.
Can we have them on the podcast before that article gets released?
We can have them on after. We can have them react to their. Oh, you're saying that they're not going to come on anymore. Well,
yeah,
you know,
we'll beg. That's what we normally do.
Some of them are hard. Sam, do you know the hardest person for me to rank was Chico? How do I rank somebody who is so important to this franchise, but did kind of not a lot on the ice? Like, he was important because he was the star that came over from Colorado. He was the starting goaltender. He
needs to be in the Ring of Honor.
Under his belt.
He has to be in the Ring of Honor. The body of work. Sergei Brylin, I still think needs to have his number retired. I think it was one of my earlier podcasts a few years ago. We may disagree on that. Maybe that's what
you should write about.
What, Sergei Brylin?
I have an article idea. Yeah, right. Why?
All right. Did I write that a few years ago? Was that one of my first articles?
I don't think so.
No? Oh, I thought it was.
So. We can look. Everything's in the archives. Nothing dies.
Yeah.
We're not SB Nation over here. Nothing's going to go away. Was that too much of a
we provide non-perishable content.
Little slice. Sorry, guys. I've said very nice things about the former and Louis Trust. Now all about the jersey. Those guys are, they do good work. But if you're gonna give me an opening to slash at the competition like that,
we need to start a podcast war. Remember the old radio wars days back in the 80s? Z100 and Power 95 going after each other. And then Howard Stern came in.
And I'm going to sound like a complete douche when I say this. Am I allowed to say douche? I mean, I said it twice now. What Devils podcast is war worthy? I mean, I guess I could go after one that does like one per month, because that's the one that's more popular than ours. Or I could go after some of the ones from and they're all doing good work, and they're all growing, but
yeah,
there's a reason why I partnered with the Let's Go Devils podcast. And we've both seen our
charm
go up. Sure. We'll go with that. We'll put that on the record. But,
all right.
No podcast for it now. I have no reason for it.
Yeah, I know. I'm only kidding around when I say that.
I know.
Because if we did start a war, I know how we, even the guys, the Sunday show and all that, I know how we are. There's no reason.
What I would do is I would say something haggard on Twitter and not open the app for a day, and then people would be yelling at me when I came back, and I'd be like, this was not even on my radar. Y'all are very upset about something that I did not care about. Sorry. It's how it be.
Nick, we're going to end this podcast. Timmy Trumpets is out right now.
Yeah, I'm going to get in trouble. Get me out of this. Save.
All right.
Hey, where's the meat?
I was just kidding.
Goodbye, folks.
All right.
Yeah. 50 greatest Devils of all time. That's all I got to plug. I hope it comes out by this time next week. I hope it's out by this time next week. Still working on internet issues at the place I'm at, but I should be able to get it out. Let's hope, Sam.
Yep. Excellent. I want to thank all those tuning in. I think he'll be back tomorrow. I'm not sure.
Say, Lovey.
Till next time. Let's go Devils.